Welcome to And the Featured Artist Is. My name is Maurice Waddell, and we're going to be chopping it up with Roy McGrath, jazz saxophonist, right here on this episode. Ever since I saw you at the Latin Jazz Fest in Humboldt Park, you blew me away that day. And,
oh man, which one? I played there a couple times with different bands. Was it my own band played my music, or was it of somebody else?
I'm not sure, but it had to be like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, almost everything was 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. And at first, I didn't see you, and I heard a gentleman speaking Spanish, and I saw, and then I heard the saxophone, and I looked up, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on?
Oh yeah, man, that's the story of my life, man. Born and raised from Puerto Rico, in Puerto Rico. I came to the States for college. And I went to Loyola, New Orleans, and I just a big, tall, white guy from Puerto Rico, man. Speaking fluent Spanish. People have been confused my whole life.
You got to explain again how Puerto Rico to Chicago. How did that happen?
Puerto Rico to Chicago. Honestly, I really love that story. It's such a cool story. I at least I think so. So my first time in the States, besides a couple like small trips, was for college. That was my first extended period of time in the States. I went to Loyola University in New Orleans. The reason I went to school in New Orleans is because a recruiter from Loyola came to my school in Puerto Rico, heard me play the saxophone in 12th grade, obviously. I was a senior. And I told him I had a gig in La Calle San Sebastián at a place called Hijos de Borinquen, which is, I think it's there, but it might be closed. And he came to my gig, recorded it, sent it to the jazz director over there, and it became my first pick. And I thought it was cool to maybe go to New Orleans and live in New Orleans for a bit, Yeah, so anyway, I got to New Orleans, and I got to New Orleans the first semester where they opened up schools after Hurricane Katrina.
Wow.
So I'm bad with a timeline, but it was like almost a year after Katrina. So what was that? 2006, 2007,
somewhere around there. Yeah.
And my first semester at Loyola, another hurricane came to New Orleans, and I forget the name of the hurricane. But the city government basically told everybody, you got to leave. Everybody has to leave. Loyola said, you need to leave the city. Everybody said, you got to get out. They obviously went through a traumatic event, and they wanted save as many lives as possible. So anyway, I had nowhere to go. You don't just buy a $700 plane ticket and just go back to Puerto Rico. It's kind of, it's expensive for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a friend of mine who was living in Chicago, and the tickets were like $200, $175, something like that. I was like, you know what? Let's go visit my friend in Chicago, right? Mm-hmm. I get to O'Hare, never been here. It was August. I get to O'Hare. And she had a surprise for me. And she's like, hey, surprise, it's Jazz Fest. And we're taking the blue line straight in to see freaking Sonny Rollins.
Wow.
Blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, I love this city immediately. I think Johnny Griffin died like a year or two before or within that time period. So I think the second day I was in Chicago, we went to the Jazz Showcase to see a posthumous tribute to Johnny Griffin, right? With 3 tenor players. I forget who they were, but I think Pat Mallinger was one of them. Back then, I wasn't hip to my Chicago cats, Okay. I was like 17. So anyway, I had a great like 5 days in Chicago while this hurricane hit New Orleans. Thankfully, it wasn't a big deal. We went right back to school, right? And it always stayed in my mind. And in New Orleans, I met a friend of mine named Gustavo Cortiñas, who's a jazz drummer in Chicago. He's a Mexican drummer from the Ciudad de Mexico that I met at Loyola University in New Orleans. And I stayed in New Orleans when I graduated, and I played in the city for like 3 more years. Gustavo, since he has visa requirements, he had to stay in school to stay in the country. So he got accepted into Northwestern University, and he just went to Chicago, right? So we're talking like, I finished my degree. I'm living in New Orleans, and after like 2 or 3 years in New Orleans, I'm feeling like I need a change of city. I need to learn more about the big jazz cities in the United States. So Gustavo says, dude, come to Chicago. You're gonna love it, man. You're gonna love it. The director of jazz studies here is Victor Goins. I think at the time he was studying with Herlin Riley. And he just put all these names out, and I was like, man, I think I'd like to do that. So I applied for Northwestern, and I got waitlisted. And I was third. I think I was the second on the wait list, right? So the main guy who got into Northwestern for the master's degree, right? That guy is Greg Ajid, who's the saxophonist for and clarinetist for Michael Bublé right now.
Right.
He was really close with Mr. Goins, and they had a relationship from New Orleans, from NOCA, the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts, and also he's just a way better musician than I was at the time, So he was a great first choice. I don't know who the second choice was, but they both said turned it down. So I got into Northwestern, being basically third in line. And I moved here for my master's, and fell in love with this city. I was just like, man, this is a great city for music. That was 2011, and I've been here for 10 years.
When did you know that the saxophone was your instrument? Because I did read up about you, and you do sing. At the age of 16, you decided, hey, I want to try the saxophone. When did you, what happened at 16 where you said, okay, this is my instrument?
So this is a story that's important for people to hear, not because it's about me, but because it's a story of how music grabs people, and how with children and young adults, you need to listen to them whenever they have some sort of desire or inspiration, whether it be music or cooking or sports or whatever fills them, So when I was 7, I watched some horrible Disney movie. No idea what it was. Some movie, it's one of those Disney movies for kids, right?
Right.
And there's this moment where this kid in high school is trying to woo this girl, and he gets this genie, right? And he asks for a wish, and his wish was to be able to like play saxophone and woo her with the saxophone. So cheesy. So then I just remember the genie, your wish is my command, and the light comes down, and this kid shows up in a tuxedo, and he plays saxophone for the girl. And I'm like, I like that instrument. That was when I was 7. I asked my mom or my dad, I don't remember who exactly, if I could get a saxophone. And you're 7. They were like, nope. And I don't blame them, because I've taught enough children. You gotta be on a child to not break an instrument. It would have been nice, but at the same time, I've seen so many broken instruments because you're not ready to handle it. So anyway, I'm just defending my mom and dad for saying no. So then when I'm 16, when I'm 15, I tell this story to a friend of mine, Rosalind, who she was in a mixed school 2 blocks away from my all boys school, right? We used to get out of school and we used to go into Rio Piedras, which is a part of San Juan in Puerto Rico that has like a big market and a lot of stuff to do. So, if you want to sneak out at 3:30 and do something fun for like an hour before your parents pick you up, you can just, do that. I told her that story. And for my birthday, she gives me a saxophone.
Wow.
That her dad had. Her dad had played the saxophone, and apparently, I need to talk to her about this particular part. But her dad played it, kept it in a closet for a long time. It was played by one of the saxophonists in El Gran Combo, which is one of Puerto Rico's like most renowned salsa orchestras. I should ask her exactly who played that saxophone, because now that I'm older, I kind of want to know. But anyway, it was this Italian brand called Lamonte, 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 which in Spanish means the hill or the mound.
Okay.
And it's like not a known brand. It's just like one of those stencil saxophones. It was a good instrument, but I mean, it was filled with cobwebs. It was a mess. I think I saw a cockroach come out of it when I got it, but I was so excited. So I played that for like 2 years, and then I bought my first intermediate instrument after that. And yeah, from then on, it's like I kind of just knew I wanted to do that.
What would you tell young artists who are trying to find their voice or find their instrument in music? Because you have a lot of young people who love music and who want to sing, who want to be in the limelight. What advice would you give some young artist who either sings or plays an instrument right now, especially in 2021, going into 2022?
That's a rough question. Because young musicians more than ever now, they have they can't, I mean, I guess right now they can, but all of 2020 they couldn't. You couldn't just go and see your favorite artist.
Right.
You couldn't just go and take lessons. I'll use a student of mine as an example. I have this student. He's been playing guitar and drums for about 4 years, and he picked up the saxophone 2 years ago. He picked up the alto, and he plays baritone in the big band. And was it 2020? Yeah, it wasn't. Was it 2020? No, it was 2021. Yeah, that makes more sense. In summer 2021, he decided he wanted to go to a jazz camp. So I gave him a list of all the jazz camps, and I forget which one he got into, but they told him the only position we have is the tenor, and he didn't play tenor, nor did he have a tenor. And I was like, hey, do you want to play tenor? Do you want to just jump on this? So his dad rented him out a tenor saxophone, and he got proficient enough to play in like 3 months before the camp, and then he played the camp, and he was not the best guy of the bunch, because I mean, between alto, tenor, and baritone, they all have different breath supports. So it's not like you can just jump from one to the other without like spending time on it, but he did that, and this kid, incredible guitarist and drummer, has put himself out on a new instrument. I think if you're young, you should just pursue this. I guess this is my answer now. Like if you're young, you should pursue whatever you feel you want to pursue, Eventually, I think from an emotional standpoint, you're going to weed out what you don't want to do.
Okay.
And I think that might come back later. Like, for example, I was in choir from 4th grade all the way till 12th. I was one of the lead tenors in my high school. And I just completely stopped after saxophone, right? After I started playing saxophone. But in the last like 4 or 5 years, I've been wanting to pick it back up again, So just because you put something down, that doesn't mean that later on you won't want to pick it back up, You just have to want to do it, and you should never feel forced to do it. You need to desire it, especially if you want to live a life in music, because it's not an easy one, but it's a very fulfilling one. So You know, you need to want it.
I read in your bio that you traveled all over the world. What are some of your favorite places to go and to perform?
Well, I've definitely traveled a lot of places, and they've all been so unique. I think just because it was the most unique experience for me. Myanmar, which used to be Burma. What an incredibly different place. Just, you know, it's just difficult to explain, but you know, the world is big and there's a lot of different people in it, and people think very differently. And Myanmar is one of those places where I'm so grateful that I've been there, especially with everything that has happened in the last 2 or 3 years there, because they're going through a civil revolution. Yeah. I mean, I went there with Bill Cessna, Sam Peters, and Jonathan Wenzel, all guys who live in Chicago, and we all talk about how we can't believe that we were there right before all that stuff started happening. But just incredible, very, just an incredible place. Shanghai, one of the coolest cities I think I've ever been in. Just talk about a metropolis, you know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I played a bunch of places. I played a lot around Mexico. Mexico's always fun to play, you know. Good people, great food, good hangs, you know.
Now I want to get into your music, and I think I've heard your debut album, Martha. Can you talk a little bit about that project? It's people haven't heard of this CD. It's one of the best CDs. I keep it in my rotation in jazz.
Oh,
talk
thanks,
a little bit
man.
about that.
Yeah, sure. So Martha is actually my second album. My first album. No, it's all good. It's all good. Most people wouldn't even know this because I recorded this small album in New Orleans with this jazz trio. But I only made like 500 copies, and it's on the internet some places. But Martha is really my first real album. Recorded it in 2014. Dedicated it to my grandmother. My grandmother passed away from cancer, and I just dedicated it to her because she was just like the rock of our family, you know. I think all families have this rock, you know. It's sometimes it's dad, sometimes it's mom, sometimes it's grandma, you know. But she was like the rock of our family, and just such a stellar human being, you know. I mean, some people are just incredible, you know. And for me, that was my grandmother, you know. So I dedicated it to her. I recorded it at Studio Media, which used to be by Benison's Bakery in Evanston on what street is that? On Davis Street. But they had to move. They moved Scott Steinman and Studio Media. They had to move into electrical audio because they started doing construction over there, and the construction just completely decimated their studio. But yeah, and it's mostly a collection of like modern, just original jazz compositions, with like a touch of Afro-Puerto Rican, Afro-Caribbean influence. Yeah, that was my first album. A whirlwind of stress to make, because the first time you make something, it's always like, what are you doing? You know? Yeah, my second one I released in 2017, Remembranzas. And that one's a lot more Afro-Caribbean in nature. I feel like I'm a lot more in touch with my roots. Still not as good as a composer as I wish I was, but that's the journey. So, yeah.
I think you're selling yourself way too short. I love your music, and I know when people see this interview and they start to research, they're gonna love your music too. Speaking of music, who are your influences, whether in jazz or outside of jazz?
On the saxophone, for sure, my guys, my people. I mean, John Coltrane, for sure. Dexter Gordon, Stan Getz, Charlie Parker. I mean, just they sound so good. They just sound so good, you know. Yeah. The heroes. And then modern cats that are alive today, Miguel Senon from Puerto Rico, who just blows my mind every time I hear him. You know, just what a bad dude. You know, Branford Marsalis, Shamus Blake, Chris Potter. You know, I mean, yeah, those are the cats that are like David Sanchez. Those are the cats that hit me, you know, just right off the bat. But also La Sonora Ponceña from Puerto Rico. La Sonora Ponceña is I don't want to phrase it that way. One of, I think, two main salsa orchestra establishments on the history of the island. They're individuals that are well known, but as for orchestras, the Sonora Ponceña from Ponce, led by pianist Papo Luca, who you hear him play and you're like, that's Oscar Peterson. Many people have said that. He said he's transcribed a lot of Oscar Peterson. The San Francisco Jazz Collective, man, I love them. You know, Brad Meldau. You know how it is. It's a rabbit hole. The list is endless. But those are the people that those are the musicians that get me really excited right now to hear them and to want to emulate them.
Are there any artists that you listen to that really kind of spark your creative juices that are not in jazz music?
For sure. Let me answer your question, then I'll go on a tangent. So a lot of salsa. You know, seriously, a lot of salsa. I love salsa. I love salsa arrangements. I love La Sonora Ponceña. I love El Gran Combo. I love everything Ismael Rivera, you know, Hector Lavoe, Tito Nieves. There are a lot of young cats on the scene right now in Puerto Rico that are putting out some incredible just like tunes, basically, you know. Salsa is really dear to my heart. Also, a lot of plena music from Puerto Rico. Los Pleneros de la Cresta. I follow this guy named Lero Martinez Roldan. He's a cat in Puerto Rico who's like just singing everywhere. Los Pleneros de la 21. I'm trying to get deeper into bomba, which is big in the Puerto Rican scene in Chicago, but I need to learn more about it. So yeah, salsa is big on me. I like a lot of funk music too. You know, like a lot of Earth, Wind, and Fire, of course. Which makes me think of the Brecker Brothers for some weird reason. I mean, there's so much good music out there, man. There's so much good music out there. It's incredible. But I was gonna say, it's funny. You think of me as a jazz musician, you know, but there are a lot of cats that think I'm a salsa musician, you know. And then there are a lot of
that. I can see that by the time I saw you at the Latin Jazz Fest. I just strictly just thought, okay, this is a Latin jazz artist, and
yeah,
you know, and I can hear it in your music.
For sure. No, and for me, that's the music that I most enjoy playing. You know, creative music, especially if it's Afro-Caribbean in nature. And you know, I'm always grateful when people want to play my original stuff and go through the headache of learning it. You know. And then, you know, there are other cats that think I'm like a wedding musician, because the wedding industry is big in Chicago, and the last 3 or 4 years I've been, you know, paying the bills with that, you know. So it's funny, identities are interesting like that.
Can you explain for people who don't come to Chicago, what is the scene in Chicago as far as jazz?
Oh my goodness. So Chicago is a very big city, but it's also not a big city, you know. I don't know the population limit, the population stats compared to like LA or New York. But what I can tell you is that Chicago is a big enough city that every single individual scene is big enough to have people that have spent their whole lives in that scene. And if you don't go to another scene, you wouldn't even know about it. You know, the jazz scene, the Latin scene, the church scene, the soul scene, the blues scene. I've been here for 10 years. The blues scene is the one scene that I literally don't know almost anybody in there. I can name like 5 guys. You know, Chicago's very blessed to have like a lot of incredible musicians doing justice to the individual genres in each one of those scenes. And the jazz scene in Chicago is incredible. And I am just so grateful that I'm a part of it, you know, because it's only in the last couple of years that I felt that I'm sort of a part of it, you know. You know, I'm not a local, although now I feel like I am. But like the first 5 years, I'm like, man, this is a deep scene of a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of history, and I just need to listen to these musicians, and I need to see what they do. I need to go to Perez Whitted's jam session every Sunday at Andy's, and hear Bobby Broom play. You know, like I just need to sit back and just check these cats out, because I am not from here, and these people, these musicians are bad. You know, it's an incredible scene. I mean, world-class musicians releasing incredible original music on a regular basis, that support each other, that compete against each other in a healthy way, that swing hard. You know, it's just and those are the musicians, right? And you know, the clubs here I mean, the clubs here are incredible. I mean, the Green Mill. Yeah. You know, what an incredible club. The Jazz Showcase, all the history that's been through the Jazz Showcase, you know. And that's excluding like all the small little clubs that have popped up throughout the 10 years, like Jerry's Sandwiches, which is not there anymore. Right. You know, I mean, they're Cafe Mustache. I mean, there's just so many places. Constellation, you know, it's a great place to make a living playing music.
Put your dream team band together, and so it can be anyone who's alive or has passed on. What would be your dream team band to put together?
Ooh, I can. Well, okay. I can tell you who I think my dream team band is, because I've been thinking this for a while. Well, let me tell you who I thought for a long time my dream team band was. So the San Francisco Jazz Collective, they released an album tribute to Stevie Wonder, and that band might be my favorite conglomerate of musicians that I think I've ever heard on record and live. That's a big statement. I speak in exaggerations a lot sometimes. First of all, Miguel Zanon and Mark Turner. I mean, that combination to me was just incredible to listen to. Eric Harlan, Stephen Harris on vibes, Robin Eubanks on trombone. I think it was Joe Martin on bass, and Edward, I forget that cat's last name. But that cat, Edward on piano. That to me, that band has played some of the best music I've heard live, you know? Yeah. And it broke my heart when the San Francisco Jazz Collective cycled through a couple of those guys and moved on to different players. It's the nature of it, right? But San Francisco Jazz Collective plays the music of Stevie Wonder and plays the music of Horace Silver. Those are the only 2 records with that band. But let me entertain the alive or dead thing. Let's make a really interesting mix. So I would like to hear.
I want you to include yourself in this also.
Oh no, I can't do that. No, I
just made it a little harder for you.
I wouldn't be able to hang with those cats.
Modest,
Okay.
modest.
So we're thinking like an Art Blakey style medium ensemble, right? So I'm thinking myself, Jerry Mulligan, Miguel Zanon, and on trumpet, oof, that's hard. I would say either Freddie Hubbard or Miles, but I don't know if Miles would like to play with us. You know,
Miles is Miles.
You know, I mean, that's not a rag on Miles.
Right.
You know, I don't even know why I'm in that horn section. You know, but I would love to play tenor next to Jerry Mulligan, and in between him and Miguel Zanon. I think Miles would do a good job, but I think Freddie too. You know, and if I wasn't there, I would put Dexter Gordon in with that crew. You know, I would like to have Ella Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday singing next to each other. Maybe with Johnny Hartman. You know, I think the harmonies between those three. This is a big band. I don't know what type of music we're playing. You know, on bass, I think I would like to put Ben Street. On piano, I would like to put Chick Corea on piano with that band. You know, this band's gonna sound crazy. And on drums, who would I put on drums to play with Ben Street and Chick Corea? With Jerry Mulligan, Miguel Zanon, myself, and Freddie Hubbard. Those backgrounds behind Ella and Johnny Hartman and Billie Holiday would be pretty incredible. On drums, Philly Joe Jones. It has to be Philly Joe Jones.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, I don't think that rhythm section is going to lock up.
That's some interesting choices, and I know I would kind of, you know, it'd be too wide for me or too vast for me to kind of put an all-star band together.
And I want to hear your answer, though. I do want to hear your answer.
Man, I gotta have Miles, whether he wanted to or not. I know,
yeah.
You know, he can turn his back to the audience. He could do that. He could do all of that. I accept the attitude. When you accept Miles, you accept the attitude because of his great music. I would have to go with, I love Chick Corea, Tyner for piano, I believe, McCoy. I remember seeing him in Chick Corea years ago. Downtown in Chicago. I took actually my son to go see them.
Oh my gosh.
And he was about 10 years old. And I think that launched his kind of musical creativity, sitting there and watching those two great artists. Saxophone, other than you, I got to go with Grover Washington Jr. or David Sanborn was like the first cassette that I bought was of David Sanborn. And the first, I remember it was called As We Speak. And I was in high school at the time. And I remember hearing it on a college station. And I was just looking around town. I'm like, do you have David Sanborn As We Speak? And people were kind of looking at me as a 13, 14-year-old kid, like, you know, what do you want with that? And so, those guys.
Bass and drums.
Bass and drums. I got to go with my man. If it's not Mingus, I want to go a little modern with either Jaco Pastorius or Marcus Miller. Funk of Marcus Miller. It's always, I play with the bass, but Marcus Miller made me afraid to even touch the bass. The way he plays sometimes. Guitar, it has to be either Wes Montgomery or George Benson.
I didn't think about guitar. Man, that's a good band.
Yeah, she's singing Sarah Vaughan, Billie Holiday, of course. So yeah, it's so many that it's you know, I'd be afraid of making people mad, not putting them in my dream team band.
Yeah, you know, it's a good question because depending on where you're at with like your knowledge of who's played with who and jazz history and stuff, you can get pretty out there, like and obviously everybody's different, so you're gonna ask this to other people, right? And I'd be interested in their questions. But like, for example, like Chick Corea played with Miles in the electric band, and Chick Corea is also he was also accustomed to playing with two keyboards, so between him and McCoy Tyner, I can hear how that can kind of work out, and then you got Marcus Miller, Jocko. I can see that working out, Grover Jr., Grover Washington Jr. and Miles, like, or David Sanborn, like that's very interesting.
Yeah. And
like
it seems like they, to me in my mind, they've crossed paths at some particular time, play with each other on different projects, things of that sort. Let's go back to you, because this show is called "And the Featured Artist Is." New projects. What are you working on? Who are you looking to work with? Where can we come find you?
Man, I got 9 new tunes that I played with a bunch of different cats around town, and I'm just so excited to have the opportunity to record it whenever I get to do it. I'm trying to for this next album. It's called Menjunje. A menjunje is a tonic. It's a menjunje is what a grandma or your mom would give you when you're a little bit under the weather, So, ay, mami, tengo una tos, la garganta me duele, I have a little sore throat. Ella, no te preocupes, papito, te hago un menjunje ahora. I'll make you a little tonic. And, it's one of those classic, could be ginger, could be honey, it could be turmeric, could be a tea. It's just like a mixture of stuff that just makes it feel good. It gets you back to where you need to go. And I'm trying to see if I can get cats from Puerto Rico to record with cats from Chicago. But, with the pandemic, it's just so difficult to figure out when to do it. Am I going to bring cats over there, bring cats over here? I'm also broke. So, it's not like I can just drop that money to get people together, but it's going to happen soon. And it's good music. I really want to get it out there as soon as possible. It's going to be recorded in 2022. It was supposed to be recorded in 2020, but all of my work disappeared.
Wow.
Like everybody, like all the musicians.
Right.
So I had to put it on pause. And 2021 was sort of a catch-up year of just working as much as I can, just to prepare myself for being able to record, but yeah, man, I got new music, and I've heard cats play it. We played it at Fitzgerald's. We played it on tour in China in 2019. It's been changing little by little. There's a couple videos that I have on my YouTube. One tune's called Cuembe Nama. Cuembe is a style of bomba from Puerto Rico. Mm-hmm. That tune's going to be on the album, re-recorded instead of live. It'll be a studio quality, and I just got to figure out how to get it out.
So let's look in the future, in the next 5 or 10 years. Where are you? What are you doing?
Where I'm releasing that album. Hopefully I'll get to play it. I'll play the album in Chicago. Hopefully I'll get to play it in Puerto Rico. I want to play more music back home. I felt weird about it for a while, ever since Hurricane Maria.
Right.
Because I feel like, if I bring a quintet from Chicago, what they're paying me, they should pay a local cat who went through, stuff. But I talked to enough friends back home. They're like, no, man, come on, bring your band over. I want to see if I can get my band back to Asia with my connections over there. I want to play with more of my heroes. I want to get better at the saxophone. I want to be less lazy. I just want to be better, man.
I think the pandemic has made a number of us lazy as far as, kind of having to sit back and kind of be safe and kind of stay away from each other.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's I know with me it's been a struggle trying to work from home and teach and all that other stuff. So
Yeah,
um,
man, I don't sugarcoat it. I think it's been a struggle for everybody. I think it's healthy to accept it, and talk about it. I do think, we don't have to get into that, but I think 2020 was probably the worst year of my life. Grateful that everything is sort of back. I hope people can continue to be careful, continue to be safe. I'm looking out for my friends. And yeah, man, I mean, there are days where I'm like yesterday, I practiced drums for like 3 hours.
wow.
Like I was like, man, I got time. I was like, you know what? I want to play drums to Anita Baker. So I put some Anita Baker on, and I just played through a bunch of her stuff for like 3 hours. And I was like, wow, what a good day. And other days I'm like, man, what am I gonna do? It's cold and there are no gigs.
That's another question I wanted to ask you, because I know as a writer, you get writer's block, and you kind of have to work your way out of it. And a lot of
Yep.
times, what I do is I listen to a lot of music, or I read a lot more, and to kind of get myself away from myself a little bit or disassociate myself, and then usually it comes back. What do you do when you have those times where the creative juices aren't really flowing? And you kind of feel like stuck in like a treadmill.
Well, first of all, I wanted to ask you: do you consider yourself more of a writer or more of a poet, or is that something that you just vacillate between all the time?
I go in between all the time because
Yeah,
what I did was I wrote a lot of poetry with my books, but I got into a phase where I'm like, I have enough poetry out there. Let me start working on novels. Let me start working on stories. Let me start
gotcha.
taking the screenplays that I've written and turn them into books and kind of filling out the story a little bit more. And so I've been in that phase for the last, ever since the last book came out in 2000, I think 19 or 18, is like, okay, enough of the poetry. Let me get back into like creating stories and creating more of a novel and telling the stories that have been in my head for so long.
That's how I feel about writing for different styles of music. I mean, for example, my next album after this one, the way you were like, okay, enough with the poetry. For me, it's sort of like, uh, okay, I've spent enough time like researching like Afro Caribbean rhythms. I want to go back to swinging. So the next album after this one, I wanted to be like a swinging album, Um, so what do? I cook.
Wow.
That yeah, I love cooking. Man, cooking just transports me into another dimension. I love doing it. Usually I'll listen to music, but I'm just in the zone. I'm, checking out recipes, trying out something new, cooking with something that I've never used before. So I like cooking a lot. I like taking my dogs on hikes. I have one dog, sorry, Soju. I like taking her on hikes. I like being in nature. I like getting away from the city and getting up in the mountain, where it's quiet, where you don't have people texting you about sound checks,
Mm.
where like, you can just focus on just the path, I like doing that. I try to be in silence a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, actually, that was me pretty much the last 2 or 3 days. This may sound stupid or just not on par, but with the everything else. But I bought a candle at Walgreens, and I just kept that thing on in my living room, and I spent like a lot of time just in quiet, just
You're
just
talking to a candle guy. I love candles.
yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. So yeah, man. I mean, you got to do stuff to get away from yourself. The more I'm in myself,
Yeah.
it just it does that doesn't work out.
Right.
You gotta let it flow. I I would say if anybody wants to get to know me, listen to my music, please. Just it would be an honor for you to just check out my music. And if you have any questions, just hit me up, because I'm not trying to be some rock star. I answer all my Instagram DMs.
And I appreciate that. Where can people find you?
I'm on iTunes, or actually, it's not even iTunes anymore. It's Apple Music. I'm on Apple Music. I'm on Amazon Music. I'm trying to make my YouTube presence, just as you are too. I'm trying to get that up and running a bit more, so you can do all that stuff. Yeah, man. Just if you like my music, just try to support me. I would appreciate it, because I'm just trying to do it like everybody else. I think people should start with my latest one, Remembranzas, which I released in 2017. I'm really proud of that album. I'm proud of all the work that myself and my fellow musicians put into that album. It's closer to my Puerto Rican roots than Martha, and it's also just more relevant to me. I think that's the way like putting down music on a project works. Like, you put down what's relevant to you in the moment, relevant. So yeah, check out Remembranzas, check out Martha, because I'm very proud of that too, for sure. Yeah. I listened to that album for the first time in years a couple months ago, because I'm re-editing all my charts, so that when musicians come and rehearse with me, they could read things clearer. Follow me on Instagram. I'm at Roy McGrath Sax, or saxophone. I think at Roy McGrath Saxophone. Just pay attention to when I'm doing stuff, if you want to.
Okay. So this is my last question.
Yeah.
Don't tell on yourself. Don't get yourself in trouble. So what do women go for? The instrument they go for the most? The saxophone, the bass? Because you hear bass players brag about the women love the bass. Drum players brag about the drums. I believe it's the saxophone. What do you think?
Man, people always think it's the saxophone, man. People always think it's the saxophone. There's that cliche: the saxophone is a sexy instrument, right? Yeah. I don't think that's true, man. I think it's the vocalist, and I think it's the guitar player. Wow. Oh man, it's so funny. Like I said, I'm not trying to get myself or anybody else in trouble, but how many times have I had a bass player or a drummer friend of mine at a gig or on tour, with the possibility of a potential mate, and they're like, "Hey man, could you take the drums back in the taxi? Could you could you take care of the bass?" And I'm like, it's like, I got you. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's just how the cat plays the instrument. I mean, Miles.
Yeah, Miles. I always thought it was a saxophone. Women go for the saxophone player. I forgot about the vocalist, but the saxophone player is definitely I consider a sexy instrument. So
I know you're very. I know because I read a lot of the posts that you post. You're very sensual, and you're into sensuality. At least I'm assuming that through what I see through social media. Let me hit you with this. What is one of the most sensual songs, jazz songs that you've heard? Because I think and sensual doesn't necessarily mean sexual, right?
Right.
I think I have two answers on my own, but I wonder what you would think.
John Clemmer. If you listen to John Clemmer's music, his music kind of, to me, sets the mood. It kind of brings you to another space, and you can do nothing but relax to that particular music. Because if you
I don't know that artist.
Yeah, if you listen to John Clemmer, I believe he's a saxophonist, and you listen to it, you just seep into that mellow space where you could be playing that in the background, and that's all you really need. Is that kind of
Yeah.
sensual of it's, I don't want to call it mood music, but it's kind of the music where it just, if you're having a hard day and you put that on, it's hard not to just sit back with a glass of wine or sit back and have a great conversation, a very intimate conversation with that particular music. What about for you?
Uh, I think for me, Johnny Hartman singing "My One and Only Love,"
Okay.
And Coltrane playing Nancy with the Laughing Face.
Versus.
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like, I'll tell you something, which might be more interesting to anybody listening. I think my biggest weakness as a musician is the same what we were talking about earlier, like being too much in my head and not getting out. And sometimes you hear Coltrane playing on Nancy with a Laughing Face, or Miles's version of My Funny Valentine,
Yeah.
and like they're just completely out there, like they're just so present, and to me that is so sensual, to be so present and in the moment.